Hi everybody, it's Vince Sellers here again with another episode of FBI Talk. Thanks for tuning in, I really appreciate it. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about government issued equipment. So that was, I've had a couple of questions about that, but that was a good suggestion I saw somewhat recently is, can you talk about, what gets issued to an FBI agent? So that's fun, right? And I remember before I was in, I had the same questions like, what kind of cool stuff do FBI agents get? And it does vary a little bit depending on what you're doing. But anyway, we'll get into that today, and hopefully you'll learn a little something about that if you're interested in that subject. Okay, so we're going to break down this equipment conversation based on what's issued to you at the FBI Academy versus field office. So the FBI Academy, you're going to get equipment that's pretty much the same that everybody gets, all agents wind up getting. That's more your basic type stuff. And then field offices is going to be a little bit more specialized depending on what you're doing. So at the FBI Academy, you do not show up on day one and get issued all your cool stuff. You're not going to show up on day one and they say, well, here's your badge and gun. So it's not that simple. You learn how to use your equipment, and then you get issued that once you've learned what you're supposed to do. So that process occurs throughout your time at the FBI Academy. So when you show up, you may feel a little naked once you start looking around and see that there's a bunch of other agents that are already there in more advanced classes that have been there longer than you that already have holsters and handcuffs and these cool gadgets on their belts, and you've got nothing. So anyway. So the way that works is over time, and many of these items are issued at your defensive tactics class, these toys, if you will. So defensive tactics, again, that's where you learn how to arrest people, how to give the commands, show me your hands, turn around slowly, put your hands behind your back, and get on your knees, whatever. You learn all that stuff. But as you learn it, then, yes, you will get your handcuffs. So that's one of the most fun things to get, right, is your actual law enforcement handcuffs. And by the way, these items that are issued to you, they do follow you to your field office. You keep them probably for your entire career. So pretty neat stuff, once you kind of step back and think about it. So handcuffs are issued. You also get issued a mirror, so, on an extension, so you can peek around corners and you learn all that stuff in defensive tactics. And I really enjoyed a lot of that aspect. Didn't enjoy some of it, but as I've talked about in other episodes, but how to clear a house, how to peek around a corner, using the mirrors and all those techniques, pretty interesting. And anyway, so you get issued, so handcuffs, the mirror, you get issued a flashlight, so really cool, super bright flashlight, fairly small. You wind up using that in conjunction with your firearms, and you learn where to hold it and kind of how to hold it off to the side if it's dark. So if someone's shooting at the light, then they hopefully won't hit you. They might hit your hand, but you learn these techniques and how to shoot at the same time with the light, all that stuff. So some of these items are, of course, issued as well at your firearms classes. Flashlight's definitely fun. Who doesn't love a good bright flashlight? You get, aside from the regular handcuffs, you get issued several different types of flex cuffs, kind of temporary, the portable ones, like the giant zip ties, where, if you have a large number of maybe out of control protesters or something like that, that's where that could possibly be appropriate, where you don't have 30 pairs of handcuffs on you, but you might have 30 of these giant, zip tie strap looking things that if you had to secure some people in a pinch, you could do that. And then you learn how to cut those open and that type of stuff. So anyway, so you get issued some fun little toys like that. You get issued a medical bag with, a trauma kit, if you will. So if there is a shooting, just some basic stuff to wrap a wound, and you learn how to do all this stuff as part of your training. So so some medical supplies and that type of stuff. You get issued pepper spray. Careful with that, and you do learn how to use it, and it gets applied to you. So you get some pepper spray. You get a baton, and you learn how to use that. So the baton, it's the ones that kind of expand or telescope. So you learn all about that stuff as well. And so that's the main things at the FBI Academy. Now, the last thing, when you graduate, the day you graduate, then that's when you walk across that stage, and hopefully the FBI director will be there, or similar stature, sometimes higher, will be there to hand you your credentials and take your picture. And that's the coolest thing ever, is when you finally have your FBI credentials. It's got your name, it's got the FBI logo, and it says you're an agent. Like, wow, I'm actually an agent. That's a really cool day. And it has a badge on there as well. So you get your badge and your credentials. That's kind of the pinnacle of the FBI Academy, that graduation day. And then, of course, you go and get your Glock, your handgun that you've been using this whole time, that was issued to you early on in firearms. Now, they lock those up in their armory every night, so students don't have firearms in their dorms and that type of stuff. They do have the plastic blue handles or whatever that are harmless, that you can use kind of to practice, dry firing and that type of stuff. But you don't actually get your gun issued to you for you to keep on your person until that day that you graduate from the FBI Academy. And that's the very last thing you do before you get in your car and drive off into the sunset. And again, amazing feeling. That's obviously the badge and the gun, and ultimately that's kind of the pinnacle of what you get issued at the FBI Academy. So in the field office, you will get issued a bureau car. So that's going to be the hand-me-down vehicle that nobody else wants, because you're the new person and seniority rules in the FBI. That makes sense, right? But nevertheless, it's a car. You get to drive it, and you get free gas, and you don't have to pay for insurance. And it's got lights, most likely, and a siren, and you can issue voice commands with the microphone. And how cool is that? So that's a fun thing. That's also a neat day when you get your own car issued to you, which, as I understand, at least when I was in, most field offices did do that. Now, some of the bigger ones, New York City, for example, may not issue a car to every agent. They don't need all agents trying to drive on the clogged streets there, etc. But typical field offices will. I mean, that's they need FBI agents to be able to respond to crimes at just about any time, and so therefore you get issued a car. You will get issued other weapons, potentially, like a machine gun or a shotgun or something like that. Depends on partly what crime you're working and, kind of your philosophy sometimes of the special agent in charge. Some are more vocal about making sure the agents are heavily armed, and others are not as concerned. And it depends on the type of crime you're working. If you're working violent crime and chasing drug lords like I did, then you probably are going to be, and you should be, pretty well armed. And if not, then you may just have your Glock. You do get issued a bulletproof vest, and that is obviously something that is critical, and all agents will have a bulletproof vest. So another kind of a neat thing, but as fun as it is, then you kind of realize, there's a reason you're getting issued this thing, and you may actually need it. So, as I say, all of these, I call them toys. They're cool things. I mean, growing up as a kid, sure, who wouldn't want to have a bulletproof vest and a gun and a badge? I mean, that, and handcuffs, right? But you do, as you're issued all of these things, it does kind of weigh on your mind that, there's a reason I have these things, right? So anyway, stating the obvious, I know. What else? You get radios. So again, police radio, I was issued. Depends on what you're doing, though. I work with San Diego PD all the time, so I needed a radio to communicate directly with the police, because they didn't have FBI radios. They didn't communicate on FBI channels, but we needed to talk to them. So I had a police radio. You will have FBI radio, and you get trained on that, what your call sign is, etc. So anyway, so plenty of radio fun to be had as well. Which again, fun stuff, cool stuff. I like all that stuff, again. Pretty interesting to me at the time, especially when you first get to use it. Like, wow, this is pretty neat. It's an actual police radio. What else? All the ammunition you want. Basically, it's an unlimited buffet. At least when I was in, you're encouraged to go to the firing range and all those type of things, and you can pretty much get all the ammunition that you need and able to, in order to practice. One other thing I'll mention, kind of related to ammunition, is there are a few models of guns that the FBI does allow, approve, manufacturers, Glock, etc., where you can buy your own gun. You can bring your own gun. At least that was the way when I was in. They did have to be approved, and there's paperwork with it and all that stuff. But that's kind of an interesting thing. So aside from your issued weapon, you might want kind of like the baby Glock to be able to have, if you had boots or whatever, ankle holster or something like that. Some agents preferred that. And anyway, so there are some options on the table as well. And that allows you to bring some of your own weapons from a short approved list. So just don't think you're going to be bringing, your grandfather's old shotgun in or something like that. That's not the case. But nevertheless, there are some opportunities there, though, for you gun nerds to upgrade your weaponry at your own expense. And again, it depends on what you'll be doing. I did lots of photography. I was pretty good at that. I did surveillance photos, as well as lots of crime scene, search photos, that type of stuff. So I had a camera, nice telephoto lens camera that I had on me, a digital SLR, most of the time. So I was ready to go. If I needed to do surveillance, boom, I had it. And that was FBI issued as well. So anyway, so I think that pretty much covers the major items that at least come to mind. There's probably other stuff I'm not thinking of, but those are kind of the basics, I guess. So anyway, lots of toys, but again, it's a serious business. There's a reason they're issuing these things to you, is you might actually need them. So anyway, well, I hope you learned a little something today about some of the toys and tools that you do get issued in the FBI as a special agent. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.